Welcome one and all to this fun competition, except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms, everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Introduction's not needed, been completed so to speak. Since I always act familiar each and every time we meet. We're not colleagues, you've never even heard of me, but I'm just
and welcome to the social-engineer.org podcast number 42. How are we doing here, guys, today?
Good. Glad to be here. I had a long night last night, so I'm a little bit between, what do you call it? Consciousness and unconsciousness, perhaps.
Oh, what do you call it?
Torpid. We call it torpid because you're almost hibernating, yet not quite.
Uh-huh.
That works.
Almost hibernating. Wow. And then we woke you up.
Yes.
I woke him up, actually. It was my fault that I gave him the green light to go party down.
So you partied, and it was Ping's fault, and then she woke you up, and that's Ping's fault.
Yeah, somehow it was all Ping's fault or something. Dot, whatever. Yeah, it was Ping's fault.
But, I mean, on the last podcast, you said you were cutting back on the drinking.
I didn't drink last night.
So what kind of partying are we talking about?
Oh, I don't mean like I did drugs and partied. I just mean I stayed up late.
Okay, so everyone, Jordan's idea of a party is staying up late, which I do every single night.
So did you stay up like what, past 10 o'clock?
Yes, I stayed up past 10 o'clock, and there were other people involved in my activities. And but that's where we differ, Ping. You're staying up late alone by yourself, yelling at people on the internet.
Ouch! Wow, that was brutal and painful.
I'm not alone at night when the people who are up are on the other side of the world, and it's full on daylight in South Africa or India. Or
sounds like a cool Skype party thing.
It honestly is.
Okay,
it's like Warcraft. No, I'm hanging out with my friends, Mom. But you've been in the basement for 12 days.
The lesson of today's podcast is don't mess with Jordan when he's tired. All gloves come off.
Pants, Jordan.
Yeah, I mean, man, yeah, Ping. Well, it's too bad you're just alone and worthless.
I'm just alone and bitter and angry.
Yeah, hanging out with your internet friends.
When I think I should be alone, the people are hovering, including Jordan Harbinger, who's partying down at 12:30 a.m. when he messages me to see if he can have permission to stay up or not.
That's totally what it was, too. I was like, can I stay up late, or do we have a show tomorrow? Yeah. That's not 100% of what it was.
I actually feel bad. You were up really late, and then...
It's all good.
Yeah, okay. Well, and Ping, besides wrecking Jordan's life, how are you doing?
I am most excellent.
How was Chinese New Year for you?
Chinese New Year was quiet but good, and it's the end of the Year of the Dragon, and now it's the Year of the Snake, and so it's supposed to be a really good year for those who are born in the Year of the Ox. For others, it may not be so good. Like if you're born in the Year of the Tiger, it may not be such a good year for you.
I'm the monkey year. What about me?
I couldn't tell.
What year is the ox?
Year 73. Hey, so
that's me. There we are. I'm gonna have a good year, I guess.
Monkeys are trouble. Monkeys are nothing but trouble, and that is exactly what Jordan is.
Yeah, that's for sure. Especially with his 10 o'clock partying. That doesn't involve alcohol, drugs, or anyone but other people and some potato chips or something.
No carbs.
No, sorry. Yeah, I forgot you're running 10K on a sandy beach.
That's right.
That sounds like hours of family fun.
Yeah. And also, why is it called Chinese New Year? Did the Chinese buy the moon? Because if not, let's just call it Lunar New Year.
They call it Lunar New Year, but because they are like a quarter of the world's population, I mean, you gotta...
If you go look at the moon, it says "Made in China."
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
So it's that's why it's Chinese New Year.
It says, according to New York Times, or maybe actually it's just NBC News, it says good times for roosters and monkeys.
And of course,
San Diego Zoo.
This is the year, Jordan. You need to find someone to get married. It's a great year for you to get married.
And of course, all Chinese people are looking at the New York Times for their historical evidence of the New Year.
Says monkey is said to be the only animal clever enough to handle the snake.
I see what you did there.
Yes.
So, now we're done with the social-engineer.org what do they call it? Horoscope hour.
Not the Holocaust hour.
Yeah, Holocaust hour. Great. Excellent slip, Chris. So, how is classes going, Jordan?
Classes are going really well. We actually had a bunch of dudes in from like Japan, Denmark, China, not China, it's Canada. That's totally different than China. All over the United States, Mexico, Brazil. So we've had some full classes. We're sold out several months in advance. And so right now I'm like trying to add dates to the calendar. And when people are like, this is the only date I can do, I'm trying to move people around and squeeze them in. So I have a high quality problem of being sold out about 6 months in advance.
Which is a great problem to have.
Yeah. And it's the Dave Kennedy experience.
And you guys got people coming from all over the world to your location.
Yes, exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah, out in LA, and then we filled up New York, and trying to figure out how we're going to expand. We just hired someone, and it looks like we're going to just need to keep doing that because we just don't have enough coaches.
Well, that is a great problem to have. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. And I planned my next trip to North Korea in April, which is timely because they just tested a nuke like the day after I booked my tickets.
Awesome.
It's like they were like, oh, did Jordan's visa and ticket money come through? Sweet. Blow it up.
Yeah.
Push the button.
Yeah, that sounds like hours of family fun. Just a place I want to go.
But was it not an underground test? Like, so it's in some salt mine, or I didn't follow the details on it. Like, I'm pretty sure it was probably an underground test, right?
Yeah, it was. So I don't know who knows about this stuff, but why do they test those things underground? Is it because of the massive pollution and like disaster they cause above ground, or is it just no one will know?
That's going to be like 100-mile radius of irradiated Earth for the next like 350 years. That won't be able to be used for anything.
Then that's why they do it.
Yeah, underground. It seems like doing it underground is still a bad idea generally. Like, didn't we used to do that stuff on islands that didn't really belong to us?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. So, hours of family fun. And Ping, how's work with you going?
Things are pretty good. I was just promoted to practice manager of education in the consulting division.
Wow.
And then I'm going to be going to Black Hat Europe in Amsterdam. That's March 12th through the 15th, and I'm going to be there the entire week.
And I thought you left Black Hat. Now you're going back?
I did leave Black Hat, but I am on the content review board, and one of the perks is that I get to go to some of the events and see the content that we select. But Amsterdam is going to be pretty fun because it's going to be a lot of people who I normally don't ever get to hang out with because I'm so busy running the event. And now that I am a guest there, I get to see it from the other side and actually get to socialize and not be completely stressed out and a mean, angry, tiresome person, as Jordan would put it, when I'm at the event.
I don't even know if we can understand that type of Ping.
The mean, angry, tiresome person, or the relaxed, happy socializer? The
relaxed, happy, social one.
And the thing is, I'm just a high-functioning introvert. I really actually do hate people.
No, I understand that.
You really do hate... Oh, yeah, okay. I wasn't sure if I heard you correctly. But what you said was that you actually do hate people.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, just checking.
So, will you be going to Vegas, Black Hat?
I should be right now going to Vegas. Accuvant will be sending me, and Black Hat will be bringing me. I'm going to be there probably at least 5 days.
So we'll actually get to socialize with Ping. I don't even know if I can comprehend this.
You're so busy because you have your class.
Yes. Amazing.
And then you're going to be getting ready for DEF CON.
I know.
So when does Chris have time to socialize? Now, Jordan will just be partying down every single night.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Is Jordan going to be speaking or teaching or anything like that?
I don't know. You tell him.
Well,
Am I going to be speaking or teaching?
Yeah, I didn't know if you applied for anything at DEF CON.
I didn't. I don't know how to do that stuff. I guess I'm probably way too late, huh?
No, I don't think DEF CON CFP is open yet, even.
Yeah. Black Hat, you've missed the boat on.
Yeah.
But DEF CON, you could.
Black Hat's no surprise, though, because I think we've already had the talk about how Black Hat would be like, hey, we really like you, but there's no effing way you're ever talking nearby. So feel free to show up and have some free coffee, though.
Yeah, something like
We'd
that.
love to see you, just not on any kind of stage.
It's a technical content event. I think people would love to see you on the stage, but it's hard for people to justify.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the first to admit that I'm not really that good of a fit for Black Hat. I mean, I'm just not, at this point.
Yes, but DEF CON you could probably do something at.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine a course on what the Art of Charm does at DEF CON would be like, there would be one of those huge lines like they had for McChrystal, except for everybody would have a light up belt buckle. Actually, they all have those anyway. Never mind. I can't differentiate.
Yeah. Oh, great. So, today, our guest, Robin Dreeke, he's been here a few times. We just love having that guy on. He's got some new stuff going on. He's writing a new book. He's done some research into connecting the dots in between using the profile you come up with on someone, like their disc profile or communication profile, and then how to utilize that in actually engaging with the individual in a very quick way, not something that takes much time. You can do it on the fly. So let me get Robin on. Okay, we got our guest on, Robin. Robin, welcome back. Having you here for the third time. It's good to have you on the show again.
Thanks, Chris, and thanks, guys. Good to be back.
So, first of all, we always got to do the disclaimer because you're still presently working with the FBI, right?
Yep, that's true.
So, how does it go that what you're saying now is just representative of Robin Dreeke and not...
Yeah, just my thoughts and opinions and not that of the FBI.
Okay, excellent. So we'll make sure we covered all of our bases there.
Thank you.
So, you're coming out with a new book.
Yep, we're working on it, hopefully by this spring or summer.
Excellent. You have a title for it yet?
Yeah, as of right now, I'm calling it It's All About Team, and TEAM is an acronym for Trust, Empower with Choice, Ask How, When, or Why questions, and Motivate. And the subtitle for it is Mastering Advanced Trust and Rapport Building Techniques for Every Relationship. And basically what this book is doing, I'm kind of picking up from where we left off on the first one, which was about advanced rapport building when you first meet a stranger or approach someone. And this is going to talk about going beyond that. It's like, how do you really anchor relationships and develop lasting trust and rapport with individuals and across a broad spanning relationship. And also we're going to have, as you know, Chris, you can't do these things and talk about relationships without discussing some nonverbal behavior. And the big thing I'm going to be including in this one, although we won't be chatting about it here, is recognizing elicitation and being able to arm yourself against malicious people that are trying to take advantage of you. So that's going to be the main thrust of this. Next one.
Hey, I'm sorry, Robin. Do you know who the publisher is going to be? Are you self-publishing?
Yeah, I'm gonna self-publish again on this one. Awesome. It's been really good doing it that way. One, you get your own following going, and for some reason, book one did really, and is still doing really well on the self-publishing road. So I'm gonna keep it on that road because it's about getting the information out. And I can't even explain how it's been working, but it has been working. So we'll keep my own road on it. But hell, if someone wanted to come by and offer me a lot of money to publish it, that's fine too.
I really am looking forward, even though we're not going to discuss it here in the podcast, but it needs to be another discussion time, the elicitation portion.
Sure.
Because... what we have, I think there's only really a handful of books that even discuss elicitation in that matter. So we definitely should schedule something to talk about that. And don't get me going on it here now because I tell you, we'll just adjust the whole flavor of the podcast.
Oh, I know. Well, we can whet the appetites because basically, and I agree with you, Chris. And I know you had John Nolan on, who wrote the quintessential book on elicitation. And every other training I've either attended, been part of, or even in discussion with people, those core elicitation techniques are it. And so what I'm going to work with, and as I've worked with you, is really focusing in on a few of them, which I have found to be the most effective. So it's kind of taken all those techniques and honing it down to, practical application for every man, and really most importantly, being able to recognize these things, whether it's happening to you in a phishing or spear phishing scam, or whether it's happening live one-on-one.
So one of the things that I really enjoyed, of course, in working with you and teaching some of this stuff with you in our 5-day course is that first day content, really understanding someone's communication style and understanding their context.
Yeah.
I think it's probably one of the most powerful parts of the course, at least from what we hear from feedback from the students, because you know how you are, but sometimes you don't know why. And in my case, like I always know that I was abrupt and blunt and things like that, but no understanding why really gives a lot of power. And then when you can do that by looking at someone else and say, oh, I know that they communicate this way. So this new book, from when we were talking before, you were mentioning now you're going to take that a step further and actually show people how to model the context that the individual has and why they have that communication style?
Sure. What it comes down to ultimately is how do you get another person's brain to reward them for engaging you? And Chris, you and I know Ping and Jordan, we've always talked about these things, and we love throwing out our favorite chemical in the brain, dopamine. And dopamine does a lot of things in the brain, but one of them is it goes to the pleasure centers. Sex, drugs, rock and roll, and validation of someone is great because your brain's being rewarded for whatever that activity is. And then I know we've recently added, Chris, with what you've been doing in researching on oxytocin in the bloodstream. We're doing similar things. So it's basically getting an individual to chemically be rewarded for your engagement with them. And to do that, you got to really understand context. And what we mean by context is understanding how that person sees the world through their lens, through their eyes, through their experiences. And now we do this all the time anyway. One thing that I think we've done very well, and I know Ping and Jordan do the same, is we do these things all the time. So it's not about here's something brand new for you. It's about creating some labels and some meanings, not judgmental labels, but labels so you can understand what it is you've been doing your entire life already, sometimes successfully, sometimes not successfully, but to give it some labels means so you can do it a lot more proactively and a lot more rapidly. And so understanding context is huge. And so we have this 4-domain model for it that we use, and it's a great focusing tool. Because ultimately you want to understand how that person sees you so you can adapt yourself and adjust yourself so you can be exactly what they need. Because everyone just wants to feel part of a team and part of a group, and that's social proof, again, another powerful influencing tool. But you want to feel like this person understands you, understands your tribe mentality that you have, and adapt to that. And so that's what this model's for.
So how then? I mean, just give us a understanding. How, what's the basis of getting someone's brain to reward them for giving you information? That sounds like totally the opposite of the way my brain would work. So how do you make that happen?
The first thing is, we're going to rely upon, and I think pretty much sure I mentioned this in the past podcast, but just reemphasize it again, because it's really important, is understanding the tribe mentality. Us as human beings, we're genetically hardwired to want to belong to groups and institutions, because when we are, it means survival. Ancient man, a couple 100,000 years ago, in tribes of anywhere from 10 to 20, that was the first form of social welfare, first form of healthcare, first form of collective bargaining, everything. Because if one guy goes out and makes a kill, he better come back and share what he got with the rest of the tribe. So that way, if he goes out tomorrow and doesn't come up with something, he'll be taken care of. If he gets sick and injured, he'll be taken care of. So the survivors, our ancestors that our genes are passed on from, have this need to belong to groups and institutions because it says we're accepting. And what happens is our brain rewards us for behaviors that tell us, hey, I'm being accepted by a group, I'm being accepted by an organization / tribe. And so what we want to do is we want to create that feeling in an individual that I understand you and I understand your tribe and I validate who you are as a human being. And so the first step in doing this is using what on the first level I call panpsychological techniques. And using things like we've discussed before, DISC, that we use in our course, which is a 4-domain model for identifying a communication style, which is basically how we give and receive information, and a number of other things. My book, I have the 10 techniques, to developing quick rapport with anyone. And those are pan-psychological techniques. In other words, these are things that will work on any human being as long as you fall in a normal behavior pattern of human beings. I mean, you start dealing with psychopathy and sociopaths and things like that, it'll fall off. But normally we as human beings are dealing with other normal human beings. And so the first level is to utilize pan-psychological techniques to adjust ourselves to what they're hoping to get from us.
So this kind of reminds me when you were talking a little bit about some of the research that was done by like Solomon Asch back in the 60s, where they did some tests on conformity and people who will want to conform to the tribe, to the group, by having I don't know if you remember that experiment where they had like lines set up on a paper, and you had to guess which which numbered line matched the length of this baseline, right? And and then they had 4 people that were plants, and they would all guess the wrong number. And then the guy who was really part of the experiment would guess the right number, and they would all kind of give him the dirty look, like, what do you mean, you're wrong? And after a couple times of doing that, he would start to comply with the group and actually guess the wrong number on purpose because he wanted so badly to be part of that tribe and not to be ousted by that group that he began to guess the wrong number on purpose. And you could physically see the discomfort that he had.
We actually saw this together, when we're in the UK. Anytime, and ever since then, I use the same analogy when I'm describing this, when I'm teaching and instructing. Is I ask how many people here have ever traveled abroad, and I don't care if it's an English-speaking country or not. And I said, now, what did you do when you actually found another American? You latch on tight. It's like a blood brother, and you find you're from the same state, forget it. This is a long lost cousin, that you never knew before. Someone you wouldn't pay any mind to on the state side, but because we have that need to belong and to have that comfort zone. And even when we were just in Bristol over there, I went shopping that one night, and the first thing I did when I walked into the supermarket was I looked at everyone else. What is everyone else doing? How are they shopping? What baskets are they holding? What size basket? Because we have this incessant need to conform and not want to stand out from that crowd. In general, different people have varying levels, obviously, but we do want to do that. And I think using examples of traveling abroad are the most striking because everyone can pretty much identify with those.
So understanding that about ourselves, that's one thing, right? And we understand now that there's actual psychological studies that back up what you're saying, so that's also good. But now, we're talking about like from a social engineering or even a people sourcing point of view. I'm walking up to a target. How do I determine this kind of information quickly?
The disc style or
the contact style, right?
Right. Well, the first thing you're going to do is use, as we teach, I like to have, wrap as many techniques into my opening line as possible, and then I'm not about memorizing anything because then you're focused on you and you need to be focused on them. So I like to use sympathy. I like to use an artificial time constraint so that shields will go down. And I love to ask a thought or an opinion wrapped around sympathy on what I call a third-party reference. In other words, don't ask about them because that's too intrusive. Don't talk about yourself. No one cares. But I'm asking for a thought and opinion on something over here. Sympathy is powerful. Again, going back to the tribe mentality, because if you give sympathy, if you give assistance, we're hardwired to want to reciprocate it. So that it's usually the most effective way. And so for myself, I'm usually, matter of fact, I just did an exercise with a bunch of guys a couple days ago, and they used help in trying to find Valentine's gifts for their wives as an approach. Hey, I'm running late, I'm an idiot, so they're using self-deprecation, just a dumb guy, do you have any ideas, on what I should get my wife for Valentine's Day? Or what do you think about this? I wanted to get her this. What are your thoughts about that? So shields are getting down, and now what's happened is you're watching. People that are going to kind of, come at you strong and a little more direct, and they're kind of thinking as they speak, they're direct individuals. And so, and along those lines, they're either going to use more pronouns or less pronouns, and so they're either going to be task-oriented or people-oriented. As opposed to someone that is just kind of sit there maybe a little more silently and try to get you to do most of the talk, and you're most likely dealing with someone who's indirect. And so if that's the case, you want to adjust to them. So it's basically understanding how they prefer to give and receive information, and we can pick up on these things non-verbally. Matter of fact, I love a lot of times I illustrate a photo that I saw on a consult that I had done, and we didn't know anything about this individual. We had one photograph and one look at this guy, and the guy had just witnessed a little fender bender, and he's actually down in the southern state where it's warmer out, and it's in his neighborhood, but it didn't involve him, didn't involve any friends, and it was very minor, but he's standing apart from a group of people. And as he's standing there, he's got his hands folded in front of him. His head is down, his shoulders kind of crunched in, and his body is angled away from everyone else. So if you can imagine what that looks like. And he's wearing a tan button-up shirt all the way to the collar, and his sleeves are down and buttoned up, and he's wearing some khaki trousers. And so even just having a visualization of that, and this is how easy this is to recognize communication styles, just from one nonverbal shot like this, I ask a simple question. Does this individual look like the type of guy that is either direct or indirect? In other words, does he think as he speaks, or does he think before he speaks? And just from that image, generally people say he looks indirect. I said, okay, that's good. Now, basically looking at how he's aligned with the people and his body angle and how he's standing apart, would you say that this person most likely is task-oriented or people-oriented? And they say he looks task-oriented. I said, fantastic. So we most likely have a conscientious thinker or someone who's indirect and task-oriented. And if you have someone like that, there's a strategy for making sure that you want to use a lot of facts and data. You want to be very clear assessment of risks. And, you don't want to try to BS this guy because he's going to do a lot of research on whatever you tell him. And so you've got to be methodical in your approach. You have to have a lot of things lined out ahead of time, and you have to be able to respond to whatever questions he has in a very thoughtful way. You can't be all this high energy, theme-based guy. You got to be really detail-oriented. So that's all what we had off of one photo, and that's a panpsychological technique.
Huh. And when you, this is a real story, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, real.
When you approached him, did he turn out to be a C or that analytical type of person?
Yeah, absolutely he was. The great thing about this, too, is if you're wrong, you're going to recognize it in their nonverbals. You're going to see you're inducing a little stress maybe, and so you adapt yourself really rapidly. But in this case, yes, he was. And it's actually a great lead-in because he was this, that they structured their initial encounter with him based off of this because basically they have the core content of what you want to know and the information you want to obtain. And what this first model does, it helps us wrap that content just for them. It's like when you compose an email to someone, and before you hit that send button, most people kind of think about who it's going to, and they either add words, take words out, and they kind of modify it just for that person. It's called wrapping the package. And so that's what we did in this case. We knew what we wanted to know, a few questions we wanted to ask, and we wrapped it just for him. Now, the next thing we did was we found out other likes and interests of him, and that kind of goes down to the next level underneath the panpsychological level. And the next level that you want to start finding out about is, I like to call it, demographic, culture, and generation. And basically, when you start finding out about someone's demographic, like where they live in the country, because that will give different nuances to language, word choice usage, a demographic will do that, culture will do that, and then your generation, the experiences you have, between the ages of roughly 7 and 8 and 19, it shapes how we see the world. And when you understand these things and start getting that knowledge, then you're also understanding how they see the world, and you can start validating that. In other words, what's their tribe look like? Because people like them, and so that's the next level that you do that at.
So, I mean, obviously, listening to this, I would say some of our listeners, and even myself included, you start thinking, okay, we got all this stuff we got to pay attention to. How do you do that and not get so unfocused that it's obvious that now what you're doing is kind of eyeing someone up to figure out who they are as opposed to just having a normal conversation?
The key is that it is a normal conversation with one, with a few differences. One, you have your goals and objectives. You have your bit of information you're trying to glean. If you're doing a penetration test, what you're trying to gain. But that becomes a secondary thing. The primary thing and the primary goal, and I teach it and I practice it, and I know you do too, is make the other person feel better for having met you. Is the number one goal, and you do that by utilizing these techniques of making it all about them. Then your goal is secondary, because if you do these things right, and you can non-verbally see that rapport is established and trust is established, that's when you're going to lay down an elicitation technique to get whatever bit of information you're going for. and then you back out again. But and the second way to do this and make sure that you're doing it correctly, and it's the easiest thing in the world. I've read so many books and been to so many trainings on active listening skills and memorize this line and do this, and sales books are 300, 400, 500 pages long, and it really comes down to one very, very simple technique. Shut up. It's amazing. The easiest listening skill in the world and a way to remember every bit of information about someone is have nothing to say. And because what happens is, when you're starting off these conversations, if you're thinking about what you want to say, one, you're not focusing on what they're saying, which is key. You have to focus on what they're saying because you want to validate them. You want to get the brain rewarding, because they want to talk about themselves and share their experiences. Because basically when they're doing that, it gives you the opportunity to say, yes, I understand your tribe, I get your tribe, I dig your tribe, and their brain's going to reward that kind of behavior. But what you want to do is, normally when you're conversing with someone, they're going to tell you something. And then within a few seconds, maybe a minute, but pretty rapidly, you immediately have something that pops in your head that you want to respond with. Like you have your own story you want to share, because life's really an exchange of stories. And so you now start waiting patiently for them to shut up so you can talk about your story next. And you're half focusing on them, maybe even less, and you're focusing on what you want to say. And then either you're going to be patient or you're just going to jump in with what it is you want to respond with. And meanwhile, you've totally tuned out everything they were saying. The way to avoid that is the second that you ought to have a need to respond with something, throw it out. Just have nothing to say. The only thing you're doing is you're focusing on them and getting ready to ask a how, when, or why question, because that will then, one, you're going to focus on what they're saying, and when you're asking a how, why, or when question off of content they're disclosing, you can now start theming it to areas that you can segue into whatever information you need to get to.
And does that make for the lack of better terms, does that make the target feel awkward? Like afterward, they're like, man, I just spent 30 minutes giving you my life story and you didn't give me anything.
No, Chris, you know me so well. You're setting it up so well. Going right down to techniques.
Come on, I'm trying to do a good interview here, Robin.
I was about to say, based on my experience, oh no, the guys, and maybe it's different for men versus women, but the men love it when the girl's listening. He thinks she's enraptured and captured by all of his stories.
But listening, and I agree with Robin, that's a hard thing to do. And I'm not just talking about the girl-guy thing. When someone else is talking, I find myself thinking, okay, what am I going to say next, or what can I add to this conversation? And it feels unnatural to sit there and just think about how am I going to get this person to keep talking. Unless, of course, I'm in an SE engagement, then it's a different story.
And the key is, I like, this is where you throw in a little bit of quid pro quo. And because I've had this, Chris, and you've heard me say it, and I know Ping has too, where you are in one of these conversations, especially with a virtual stranger or a total stranger, where you've been talking, the target's been talking for 20, 30, 40 minutes, and all of a sudden they feel like they're completely naked. They've exposed everything in their lives in front of you. They don't even know your name because they realize you haven't said a word. Now, the way to avoid that is, and as a matter of fact, I came up with this just because of those instances, and they are rare. They don't happen all that often, but when they do, you got to make sure you use what I call a little quid pro quo. So during the course of this conversation, when you do have a like experience and you want to share your own story, what you do is you throw out there something like, "No, really, I've had a similar experience, but tell me more about yours." So you got to hold yourself back from telling the full story. Just acknowledge, hey, I'm from your tribe. I've had that similar experience. Now tell me more about yours. Because the perception then from the individual you're chatting with is it's a conversation, because they really don't want to hear your story. They want to continue with theirs. People are constantly testing, how much are you accepting me? How much are you validating me? And that's why when people are chatting, it's amazing the amount of information they'll give up, because they're constantly testing, okay, I'll tell you this about myself. Do you still accept me? You do? Let me tell you a little bit more. You do? You're still accepting me part of this tribe? They'll tell you a little bit more, because so few people unconditionally accept people for who they are. And our brains reward us when people do. And so if you become that one person that accepts someone unconditionally for who they are, you're in.
Okay, so now how do you do this? You talked in the beginning about nonverbals especially, right? And now you were talking about the target, reading their nonverbals. Now, let's say I'm your target and you're talking to me, and I start talking about things that are totally against your moral structure. How do you control your nonverbals to then also give that person the feeling that I'm not judging you?
Right. One, I think it can be challenging, for someone that is ultimately so convicted. But for me, what it's been the easiest thing is to turn it into really science experiment mode, and really take a look at and explore, why does someone think this way? Instead of offering, remember, no one wants your they'll want your thoughts or opinions, but they just want you to agree. I'm not a big believer in agreeing or disagreeing, because you can stumble on a landmine accidentally if you do that. If you accidentally take an opposite side on someone, especially when you're first meeting them, especially when you're trying to elicit information or gain trust. And so I get someone, and I've had this, I'm in a line of work where I talk to people from all over the world, every walk of life, left side of things, right side of things, you name it. I've become so fascinated by people. And matter of fact, we had a case yesterday that I had a bunch of guys up at a mall, and there was a young lady there, and she was dressed very, very goth, and doesn't dress like me, doesn't look like me, and they asked me, how would you open up a conversation with her? And I said, these are my favorite people in the world, because I'm so fascinated by why you made the decisions you made in your life. And that's ultimately what you want to do. Don't be judgmental of it. Be fascinated by how they came to be who they are. And I guess that's the way I like to reframe the context for myself. And so for her, I'm lucky I got 2 teenage kids, and so for her, and she's with her mom too. And so I probably would approach the mom, because she was there, and I would have started out with something validating, using some sympathy and seeking thoughts or opinions. I say, hey, and this is true, my daughter's birthday was recently. I say, hey, I'm so sorry to bother you guys. I'm in a rush. I'm trying to pick out something for my daughter's birthday, and I was curious if I could seek your opinions. I said, my daughter is likes to dress like your daughter here, and I don't know where in the world to go dress, clothes shopping for her. What would you recommend? That right there is a validation, non-judgmental statement that, hey, here's how you're dressing. I accept how you're dressing. Matter of fact, I'm willing to pass it on to someone in my life, even though I don't look anything like this. I might even follow up then. It's like, hey, because some of the students were asking me, well, what would you go from there? I said, I'd ask what they think about it. I'd ask the girl, what kind of challenges have you had dressing like this? When did you decide to dress like this? Has it been, how have you seen it affect your life? Positively, negatively? And I would ask the mother the same thing, because once these things start rolling, it just becomes a fascinating conversation. And what I've always found, I have actually not met an individual yet that I haven't been fascinated by as soon as you dive below that layer, that initial layer.
Yeah, that seems to be the common thread of what you're saying, which is our focus will affect the conversation. So in essence, in the beginning, you mentioned that our focus can't be, I need to get this person's info. Our focus is, I want to leave them feeling better for having met me. So if that's our focus, that will adjust. And then here, our focus is, I don't want to judge this person. I want to find out why they made these choices. And that will actually adjust both our verbal and nonverbal communications to the individual, so it will come off non-judgmental.
Absolutely, because when I've had people ask me this too, and especially I know in the tech side of things, like we work together on, some people are just not into people, and I've had people ask, Robin, how do you fake it? And I say, you don't. And here's how you don't have to fake it. Either if you're people-oriented, you're going to be fascinated by who they are as an individual. So you're going to non-verbally, you're going to be very congruent with what you're saying and what you're non-verbally giving off. Now, if you're just not into people, that's when you go into science experiment mode. Look at this individual as a set of experiments. How did you make the choices you made in your life? What are the effects of these choices in your life? It looks the same to the individual, which is very validating.
Yeah, I really like this. This is interesting stuff. Okay, so we got you got to change your focus on the conversation. We got that you got to give a little in order to make them feel like they're not just blabbing their whole life,
not just monologuing at you again,
not just monologuing it, but you don't want to. You have to focus on not giving too much, because then it's about you and not about them.
And it's hard sometimes, too, because your dopamine in your brain is going to start rewarding you for talking about yourself. Cut it off really quick, in and out, and then back to them.
Yeah, so what do you do with people who just constantly want to bring it back to you? Like they'll start asking you questions right off the bat. I've had that quite a few times where people will come up and you start engaging with them, but then they're always, oh, so where are you from? Or, well, how many kids do you have? Things like they just want constantly to ask you for information.
I recognize it rapidly as validation coming at me, and I bounce back. And what will happen is a bounce should take effect. It should stick. I was out with one of my psychologists on one of my consults, and we normally, especially when you're very hyper aware of these things, like we are, Chris and Ping and Jordan, you become very respectful of your time. Like, okay, I got about 5 minutes to do some me moments, and then we'll bounce to you, and then we'll bounce back again, so that everyone has fair, equal reward our brain time. But what happens is, sometimes, like you said, especially if you're dealing with someone who's really people-oriented and they are naturally, curious about you. My wife is one of these people. Chris, your wife is one of these people. And they'll keep trying to bounce you. Two things. One, bounce back. Give a little bit and then try bounce back. If they keep pressing, give a little bit more. Always be conscious, though, of the information you're giving away, because once it's gone, it's gone. And the greatest thing about this and this awareness of this is it's a choice. And I'm teaching people all the time when it comes to, giving up, potentially damaging information by accident, is you now have a choice. If they keep coming at you incessantly, there's an agenda on, and their agenda is either to try to sell you something, or they're just trying to, glean some, malicious information out of you. And so it becomes a choice. Do I break this engagement and come back later, or just cut off the engagement altogether, or am I comfortable giving the information they're seeking?
Yeah, so I guess, that's another thing, that's another aspect, because, here we're talking about what we can learn from it, but this is also the method that bad guys will use to elicit information out of you that they will then use for bad purposes.
Absolutely.
So how does a person defend? I mean, how do they determine, with someone, let's say, as good as you, how would someone be able to determine, this guy's just trying to validate me, so I give over info?
My only thing I do against it is I recognize the validation rapidly and I bounce it back.
So,
and if the bounce doesn't take, because remember, their brain is going to want to talk more than yours naturally, and so if they're being conscious about what they're trying to do, they're going to bounce back to you again. And if that, for me, I give it a test of about 2 or 3 bounces, and if it keeps coming back to me, I'll break the engagement. Because it's just obviously, we're both trying a little too hard, or maybe I'll just confront this. I might even say, so kind of, let's cut to the bottom chase on this. What are you looking for from me?
So, no, go ahead and finish, Robin. I had a question.
No, I was done. Go ahead, Ping.
Okay, so the question I have is, because we always talk about, how do we deal with the bad guy, or when we're doing a pen test and utilizing this, but what happens if we are at a job interview? Mm-hmm. And normally, the job interview has to be a good give and take, right? Because you have to appear to be very interested in the job and position. But if it were you going to a job interview, I guess, what would be your strategy?
Yeah, someone interviewed me on this not too long ago for a business magazine, and matter of fact, they even brought up, how do you do the 30? I thought the 30-second, elevator interview was all about you. Yes and no. What I would do at a job interview is, matter of fact, I talked to my mother about this yesterday. She's trying to get something for her program she's working. Put it in context about how you can help them and help that company. So you can self-promote, but when you're self-promoting, you got to make it about them. It's like, your company is going to be able to benefit by hiring me because I can bring a skill set to you that you don't already have. Or if you already have, I can enhance it even more. So I love putting things in context of them. I got this skill set, and as you can see from my resume, this is the skill set I'm going to bring to help profitability for your company. Then I'll also, matter of fact, I've done this a lot recently on cases, and actually for people job hunting right now, a lot of companies are shying away from hiring people long term just because they don't know the economy, things could change. But what you want to do is you want to give yourself the opportunity to get their brain to reward them for hiring you. So you first start out with putting in context of how the skill set you bring that's going to help their company be more profitable, and then going back to the time constraint, if you want to throw a time constraint on it, that could help a lot. And what I mean is say, listen, I know times are rough right now, and I'm about helping your company, being all about your company. Why don't we try a 3-month trial period? Let's sign a contract for 3 months, and that way we can kind of see if I'm a good fit and I can do all these things I can say for your company. And if not, we'll get together at the end of 3 months and we'll reevaluate where we're at. We can sign on for more, or we can part ways at that point. So if you think a company's going to be reluctant to hire, I would throw a time constraint in there, and then it's up to you to continue to give them and make it profitable for them to engage you.
So it's like handling a sales objection before the objection comes up. Like, I know this seems like a significant investment, but ... and then you handle that. Or like, for example, people who go, well, I don't really have time to do this. And you go, for people who are really busy, you might want to split your program into 2 pieces or something like that, right? Like, we let people do that here at AOC because a lot of people, they're scared to come in. So they'll be like, I can't take a week off. And it's like, well, I'll just do it over 2 weekends. So it sounds like you're sort of you're predicting what their objections are going to be and throwing that in there, especially beforehand, because it sort of sounds like then you've got their considerations in mind, but really then they don't have to go through that awkward phase of, well, I got to tell this person no.
Right. And Jordan, you hit right on it, too. I mean, this whole process, then, is you're understanding their context. You're seeing how they see the world. You're seeing how they see their business. And you're adjusting yourself to accommodate them and their business. Remember, it's not about you. It's about them. No one wants to hire you for you. They want to hire them to help their business. And you all are small business owners. Tell me, and I am, too. It's a lot easier to be a little more open-minded about someone that says, hey, listen, I got a skill set that can help your business. Let's try this out for a couple months, and we'll see where it goes. As opposed to someone says, man, I need a job.
Yeah, of course.
That open-ended thing is like, dude, when's that going to end? And what if you suck?
Yeah.
This model gives you an out, and that they're giving you ahead of time. So that way, no harm, no foul. We'll shake hands, we'll share a beer, and I'm out the door. And again, because what that's then doing, it's another powerful choice. Matter of fact, it's the second letter in the acronym: empowerment with choice. When you empower people with choice, shields are down, trust is established. Because people that are trying to dictate something to you, that is not good for dopamine in the brain.
Huh. That's fascinating. Awesome. Yeah, very fascinating. Now, can that backfire?
Anything can backfire, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess I'm just trying to think, like, because I like Ping's scenario, because we're always talking about sourcing or social engineering, but this is actually on a job interview is another whole layer of using these skills in a totally different method.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you have to give info,
though.
Right? You have to give info.
But info in terms of how that helps them.
Yeah.
We got to get through team up in this. We've only got a little bit of time. I want to make sure we get the whole acronym.
Yeah, so we did T and we did E, right?
Well, actually, let's see. We did team, which is trust, establishing trust. We talked about that. E is empower with choice, and we just covered some of that. A is asking how, when, or why questions. We covered some of that. And M is motivate. And motivate is just, and that's the whole thing wrapped together, is just motivate by empowering people with choice, validation of them, because that becomes, the brain's rewarding them so they get energized from it.
But why is it how, when, why questions? What's the power of, in the A, asking how, when, why? Why is that?
That is because those are the ultimate validation questions. A lot of rapport building schools or courses people will go to, or even if you just say it to new law enforcement cops or something, they say, okay, you need to build rapport. A lot of people think building rapport is simple flattery. And Chris, you're a great example, and Jordan is too. And I think Ping's what are you, Ping, an I or a D? I mean, you're up there.
She's like D with more D.
Right. So I got
the
three
D on the edge.
Yeah, she's D. So
I have 3 Uber Ds on the phone right now. And so what you guys would never resonate with, knowing you, is that if I walked up to you and said, "Hey, man, that's a great looking tie," you look at me cross-eyed and say, "What are you, nuts? Get the hell away from me!" Because flattery, that's flattery. That doesn't work.
My question would be, why is Ping
flattery.
wearing a tie? That would be my question.
Yeah.
So
what you want to avoid is flattery. What you want to do is you want to validate. Now, that could be a validating statement for someone, but definitely not a D. Validation is about being curious about who you are as an individual and how you run your life and how you roll in life. That kind of curiosity comes from asking how, when, or why questions. Because when I'm asking how, when, or why, I'm not being judgmental. I'm being curious. And especially with D's, asking how, when, or why it can be good as long as you keep it to task-oriented kind of things, keep it to career-oriented kind of things. Keep it. One of my favorite questions is challenges. What are some of the challenges you found in your line of work? What are some of the challenges on starting a new business? What are some of the challenges on running this training program? What are some of the challenges of running Black Hat? I mean, these are great questions because everyone faces challenges in everything they do. And again, that's being non-judgmental. That's just saying, hey, tell me about that. And now my curiosity becomes validation. And when you're asking how, when, or why, you're now going back in time. And as we said in the second layer here, generationally, the more we can understand the tribe you come from, the more I can say, wow, I get your tribe.
So are you limited to how, when, or why? Because I'm thinking about your tie illustration. I'm saying, you're right, validating for a D may not be, hey, that's a great-looking tie. It may be, I like that tie. Where can I get one like that?
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's a good opener, I think, because you're seeking the thought or opinion, you're validating a choice, which is different than simple flattery. So you're validating a choice someone made because you're interested in getting it for yourself. I think it's a great opening line. The key to the opening line is making sure you can thread then rapidly to a how, when, or why question, because after that, where do you go from that? Oh, I got it right over there. Right. All right, now what?
Okay, so you're saying that you have to, how, when, or why enables it to turn to more than just a quick answer.
Right.
Right, so...
and I'm sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead.
I think I know what you're looking for on that one, too, is it gives them the option, again, we go back to empowerment of choice, of what it is they want to talk about. Because whatever people answer with from the how, when, or why, because you're open-ended, they're open-ended questions, they're going to give you information that they're willing to talk about. And then... So you don't have to worry about fumbling on something that's too sensitive. People will say what they're willing to talk about. And when you keep exploring with these non-judgmental questions that are open-ended like that, it's the brain's flowing.
Right. So what and where are close-ended, where the how, when, why open it up to having to have a conversation. But that also requires more work and thought, I would think, on the social engineer's part, let's say.
I think they're easy because there's no memorization with it, and you're focusing on the content they're giving you. The only work that goes into it is having in your bag the themes you want to use to get you to where it is you want to go. For me, I'm always wanting to talk about, at some point in there, I'll theme it to birthdays because I like to get dates of birth because, in law enforcement, I need to know a date of birth a lot of times, but I don't like to ask questions. I like that people volunteer things. So I have a bunch of different themes I'll theme to get to a certain area that I'll roll out based on the content they're giving me. So it takes a lot of patience sometimes, but you want to make sure that people are always comfortable talking about the content that they've chosen.
Yeah, because I think it takes more work in the sense, like in our class, we see the people, they always go out, right? And Robin, you know this from the class, that they'll go out and the first thing they'll do is ask for, what's a good place to eat around here? Right. And then once they get the answer, you're done.
Where do you go?
Yeah,
where do you go with that?
Much, So, what kind of food do you eat? It's like, it's not, you can't really move that anywhere very valuable very quickly. I mean, there's probably ways to do it, but it's not as easy by using a how, when, or why question.
Yeah, and that's why that opening question, that opening statement is the most important, I think. And I think we adapted it real well in the class, is that those questions are outlawed. Don't say, hey, I'm not from around here, what's a good restaurant? I mean, you can, but you got to be able to say yourself, okay, when they follow up with the answer, how can I ask a how, when, or why question from that? Because as long as you have thought out that opening line and you can thread into a how, when, or why, then you'll be fine.
Okay, so let's talk about M before we run out of your time. M, the motivate. Give us something on that.
I put that at the end just because when you add those first three things together, it becomes very motivating. Because it's not only motivating for the other person, but it's motivating for you. One of the fascinating, fun effects of this whole process is the fact that we're so focused on having the other person's brain to reward them for engaging you, both through dopamine and oxytocin. Well, the fun effect on you when it comes to motivation is the fact that when you're successful, the same chemical effect is happening on you because you're achieving what you want to achieve. You are making another human being feel better for having met you, and it's gratifying. It's very rewarding, and that becomes very motivating. And so that's my whole concept behind the motivation. It's just keeping the focus on the good reasons why we're doing this. The fact that we're trying to arm companies to protect themselves and individuals from malicious individuals, and the process itself is just motivating.
And I would imagine that in what you were saying about the effect on you as the individual doing the engagement, mirror neurons probably play a part in that too. As you see someone expressing happy nonverbals, that it's going to affect you and motivate you to continue down the same path because you're getting that nonverbal feedback that everything is good. You're doing something nice for somebody.
Yeah, and that's a great lead into the our own context framing that we talk about so much, Chris, and that's we have this great ability as human beings to not only try to understand someone else's context, but to alter our own. And to motivate ourselves even to start one of these things, it can be very stressful. You're going to walk up to a stranger. As a matter of fact, I even think, during some of the exercises you do during DEF CON and stuff, it can be stressful. I got to call a stranger on the phone and get what kind of information?
Right.
If you think about it like that, that's stressful. And it comes across in your voice, comes across your nonverbals. But one way to motivate yourself and one way to come across very non-threatening is to restructure your context. So instead of, hey, I'm going to talk to a stranger from this company and elicit information in a penetration test, I'm going to talk to a friend and I'm going to try to help them out. So when you can reframe your own context so that it becomes a very positive experience that you're trying to help someone or trying to help a company, that's very motivating for you as well. And so your nonverbals become very congruent with what you're trying to do. And people think people are creepy because what happens is there's an incongruence between what they look like nonverbally and the words coming out of their mouths. So one way to keep these things synchronous is to feel the emotion behind what it is you're saying, and that's how we use context, our own context, to reframe it.
Yeah, that's really powerful stuff. And so when is this book? Can we get it now?
Yeah, I wish. No, we're still working on it, Chris. I'm hoping. Matter of fact, as we were saying the other day, we do our best writing on planes, and I got a bunch of flights coming up. So I'm hoping by hopefully spring, early summer is when hopefully I'll get it out. Probably going to go Kindle paperback simultaneous on that. So it's just, matter of fact, this one's been a little more difficult because we're a little more in the weeds, obviously, than we are in just the simple 10 techniques. And this one's a little more girthy, and I'm trying to make sure that, one, I can frame it and give examples, anecdotal examples like I did in the first book for every age, ethnicity, generation, and gender. I'm trying to really encompass a lot of different examples so that everyone can resonate with it, and then coming up with the exercises that we can all practice for it as well. So that's slowing it down a little bit, plus the fact I got a day job.
So,
like you. When's your book coming out, Chris?
Well, how long is that going to happen?
The what?
His day job?
I was going to say the day job. Well, we'll see. ...
Yeah, I'll tell you, Chris, it's going to come out really fast if they offer the early retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Book out suddenly next week. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got my retirement conference in April, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, well,
it's perfect time because then you can go on a book tour.
No, I just want to be with you guys and teach this stuff again. I miss y'all.
Aw.
We have a good time doing this stuff. I mean, we do rewarding stuff. I mean, it's as much as we're helping other people, it's rewarding for us as well. I mean, there's nothing better, and you guys know. I mean, paying after all the conferences you do, getting the feedback you get back. I know you're strong D's, and believe me, I'm an I, but my secondary D is higher than most primaries. But when you get that kind of feedback and people say, this really changed my life and this was extremely helpful, and I know, Jordan, you do too in your business, that's rewarding to us because we're making a difference, a positive difference with people. And then with Chris with penetration tests, we're protecting companies, from maliciousness as well as individuals. I mean, it's self-propagating. It really is. Matter of fact, it's probably one of the most new areas in psychology is positive psychology, and this fits right into it.
Yeah, we're pretty happy with what we're doing right now, and it's good stuff. And I think books like yours that maybe don't really even focus on our industry, but are just so useful in our industry because it is this kind of human element that is probably the biggest weakness when it comes to corporate security. Yeah. And we just don't discuss it enough in depth. We as an industry, I think it gets kind of brushed aside, or we have a lot of the basics. So this kind of depth is needed if we're going to really take securing things seriously. So,
and it's also, the great thing for us is it's, people think that, with all the rise of technology and social networking and everything in the last 10, 20 years, that they can be satisfied and get the same sort of validation on Twitter and Facebook. You can't. You're not going to undo 200,000 years of evolution, of one-on-one engagements, which are much more rewarding. And that's why people have, 400 or 500 friends on Facebook. They're constantly seeking validation, and they're not getting enough. And that's why the guys that are malicious hackers that are doing this stuff are being so successful using social engineering, because they're using the human element. And that's why I think we're doing a great job preventing that.
400 or 500. I think Jordan's got thousands of friends on Facebook. 400 or 500. That's like a noob. That's 400 or 500.
I'm sorry. I was talking about me.
Oh yeah,
I got nothing.
Say, Jordan, he's like in the millions, maybe.
I got a fan page. No big deal.
Yeah, no big deal.
I go there at least once a day.
Yeah, I was about to say, how often are you looking to see if, checking up on how many fans and how many followers you're getting?
Well, I have an Excel spreadsheet, and I compare all of us, and I make sure that I'm trying to win. I just want to make sure that I'm winning all the time.
That means he just writes me off and doesn't even look.
No, but listen to him. He says, I want to make sure I'm winning. That's the D in him. It's not that...
Absolutely.
I want them I'm counting the number of emails they send me to tell me how great I am.
No.
He's talking about, I want to make sure I'm winning.
I don't need the validation. What I need is people to tell me where I can improve. What I want to do is make sure that I'm winning. Okay, so
there you go. Nice.
Hey, I miss you, Robin. It's been a while since we had a chance to talk.
Yeah, it's great talking with you all. I know we see each other out there in the social world, but it's great chatting with everyone live again.
What if people want to find more stuff about you? Where do they go? What's the Twitter? What's the website?
Sure, I'm easy to find. The website is peopleformula.com, all one word, and my Twitter hash is rdreeke, RDREEKE. And don't worry, I don't post anything about me because no one cares. What I generally tweet is stuff about new social science and social psychology that's come about, and I try to frame it and give it context for how we can use this proactively in our lives.
Yeah, there's always some good back and forth and good articles that you tweet usually a couple times a week. We always get some good psychology articles from you.
Yeah, thanks. Oh, and by the way, I got to commend your latest newsletter, socialengineering.org newsletter, man. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Because it was about me? Yeah, that's right, it's about me.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I got to tell you. As a matter of fact, I've been waiting. I got the link on there. I got to tweet that later on today.
Eric
you got to self-validate sometimes. Yeah, Eric did a good job with it.
Eric did a good job. He really wrote that up quite nice and used your book as the basis for that. I think he's writing
Nothing wrong with that.
No, he's writing a secondary on that too, because that was just part one. So.
Oh really? Oh, yeah. Even better.
Yeah, he might.
Love the love fest, man.
Yeah. There comes the I, right?
That's right.
So we got your dopamine flowing. Then we had you on the podcast. You're going to be floating for a little while.
Yeah, I know. Until I get off and get back to work here.
Yeah.
Going to beat me back down.
Hey, thanks again, Robin. Really appreciate it.
Oh, you betcha, guys. It's always great talking with you. Hey, Jordan, Ping, be well, and I hope to see you soon.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Take care, man.
All right, see you later, guys. Bye-bye.
Superb, as usual. As soon as that guy starts talking, it's like, I just want to buy anything that he's selling.
Yeah, exactly. The great Rob Dreeke.
It really is ridiculous, because he practices what he preaches. 100%.
Well, yeah. It's funny because it's always like, he's talking about flattery, and then like a few minutes later, and he's like, and I know Ping and Jordan know all about this because they're so smart and pretty.
Yeah. Isn't that great? But yet you still fall for it. You're like, oh, man, I love this guy.
Am pretty.
Yeah, the way he puts it, it doesn't feel like flattery. We just know that he somehow validated us. Because, I mean, I will tell you, being in that 5% of females at all male-dominated cons, a lot of them come up and they try to flatter you, and I'm just thinking to myself, why are you trying to flatter me? What are you trying to get?
Yeah, I would love to be a fly on the wall with your flattery. Was it like, oh, Ping, you're hot?
It ranges from everything.
I would love to.
You've got great teeth, to great hair, to that's a great dress.
You got great teeth. That's really a come on line.
All smacker. I mean, it goes.
That's awesome. You got great teeth.
As in, you have all of them.
Yeah, but that's just an epic come on line, isn't it? Hey, Ping, it's nice to see you at Black Hat. You got great teeth, by the way. And then you'll be like, oh, man, I knew I was looking for a guy that appreciated my teeth.
Right, and they'll tell you, some of them are like, you don't look so tired this year.
Yeah, that's a backhanded compliment.
Right, exactly. It covers the entire gamut.
Yeah, that's always the backhanded compliments. Like, you know, you look much better than you did before. Like what? I was disgusting before.
I can't tell if those guys do that stuff on purpose or if they're just that socially inept that they do that stuff and they're like, I'm being nice right now.
Socially inept, I guarantee you.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
But I do have that query myself. Like, is he trying to get a rise out of me? Like, get me to react?
Like, did he just read some ebook on picking up chicks that said to do that? Is my question, right?
Yeah.
Or is he just like, oh, I'm gonna hit on Ping finally. It's my big chance.
Yeah.
Hey, you don't look like crap. And
yeah, she looks less tired. She'll go for me now.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me
run away. She's wearing a great dress.
Let me tuck in my black hacker shirt and approach her and tell her how nice her teeth are.
Exactly.
Yes. Meanwhile, I'm breathing onion breath on her and eating my dirty dishes in my wake. She can pick up after me.
Oh, this is great.
See, that's the stuff I see. Like, they come up and they're nice, and I'm like, and now he's leaving his dirty plates and licking his fingers, and now he wants me to shake his hand after he just
I hate when people do that, when they lick their fingers and they want to, and then they just wipe their hand on their pants.
Yes.
And then they go to shake your hand, and you're like, dude.
On the surface of the registration counter, that happened too, and it's not okay.
You got to have like a 5-gallon pail of antibacterial stuff back there.
Yes.
That's
really
gross.
Yeah. People licking their fingers and then touching you. There's just so many things wrong with that.
Do it.
Yeah, you got to put a white glove on and then shake their hand. Anyhow, Robin, great. It was a great podcast. All this stuff. I cannot wait for this book because the first book I just carry it around. It's like a little handbook. It's just great. For our industry. It's great for everybody, but it's great for our industry. Taking this now to like a whole nother level to get deeper into understanding people and their context and modeling that, I just think this is going to really, really be a phenomenal addition to the library.
Yeah, and honestly, if for those who haven't read his first book, Robin's a good writer and his books are an easy read. It's not a tome of just complete scientific explanations, which some people expect. It's actually a good read.
And it's short. I think it's like 97 pages. So literally, I think I read it once on a plane, cover to cover. You know, it's a really short read.
It's really short. It's a super fast read, and because it's so tiny, also that it's like, it's kind of funny how it's not only a short read because it's a short book, but the pages are like 1/4 the size of a regular book.
Right.
It's heavy on content and consumable. So we don't want you to think like, oh, it's a Harlequin novel for social engineers. It's packed with good information.
And it's actionable stuff. That's what I like about it. So you can actually take something that you read today, go out and use it today. It's not like you need to go and get a degree in psychology or something to understand it.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like you can read it and go, hey, I'm going to go try this on my neighbor, my spouse, whatever, and bam, you're using this skill. And then you're like, holy crap, that really worked. That's what I love about it. Actionable stuff. Great. And of course, you guys understand it clearly because you're just so awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you want?
What you did there.
Yeah. What do I want now, right? Ping, your teeth are also really pretty today.
Thank you. Shall I bite your tongue off so that you can no longer speak to me?
Ouch. No, thank you very much. I would like to keep my body parts not bitten off. So, before we got Robin on, we wanted to jump into that. I just wanted to take a moment to kind of outline what's going on with the .com social engineer side. We got so much stuff happening. We're thanking to Ping and many others who have given us advice, we are redoing our website completely. So I hope that will be launched very soon. Whole new professional look and feel. But we got a ton of classes and events coming up. We have a class in April in Belfast. We have a class in Detroit in June. And then we just got accepted to Black Hat for 2013 Vegas. Yay! I'm really, really excited. Really excited about that because I didn't know. I mean, I knew we did really good last year, but they still had to go through the process, and we hadn't heard, and it just took a while.
I was about to say, and honestly, this year they did handle it differently than when I was managing the program there, because they decided that they were really going to do an open call for papers as opposed to by invitation and by referral. So that really increased the number of applications that were sent in, and it was a very tough decision. I didn't sit in on the review per se, but with Trey Ford, the general manager, I helped him walked him through the process that I used in selecting trainings classes for the event. And he was like, I don't understand how you did it because there's so many great things and there's just so many people we want to have back, but there's so many great submissions and we only have so much space, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, well, when I didn't hear back, because usually it was much quicker. When I didn't hear back, I actually started getting nervous. Like, oh man, I wonder if we didn't get it this year, And then, last minute I had just pinged Trey, and he was like, well, I think you should be hearing from Shannon one way or the other coming up soon. So we did, and I'm really happy. Really excited about that course.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have 3, and then I know we have one more before the end of the year, just not sure if that's going to be a public class or not. It's going to be in the UK, and it might be closed. It might be bought out again, so... we're just slammed shut with that. I'm going to Japan. We're doing a mini course in Japan in May.
Whoa, that's cool. What's that for?
So this big company in Japan that wants to bring social engineering over there, wants to partner with us on that, is hosting a mini version of our course because they want to make sure that it's going to translate properly. So I'm working with some people on understanding Japanese culture more clearly so we can change some of the content.
Are you offering simultaneous translation with technical translators? Because that was very important. That was a super important lesson I learned when we did the event there.
Yeah, simultaneous translation with technical translators is exactly what I requested, believe it or not. Because I said there's no way that we're going to be able to train if we have to do it in a way that is like, okay, say a sentence, pause, then they translate. It has to be done kind of like they do at the UN, those guys in the booths, and then everyone has a little headpiece and they get translated right away. So I'm really interested to see how that works because I know that all of this stuff is actionable cross-culture, but culture does change a lot of things. Culture will change, of course, how, like let's say the DISC assessment. When we talk about DIS and C, you can have Ds over in Japan, but they will definitely be way different than us 3. Being direct and things like that, definitely not going to be as direct and forward and blunt as they are with like the American Ds. So it'll be interesting to see. So we just got a lot of things happening. I got the course in Belfast in April, then June Detroit, July Vegas. And also I'm doing a course, I should mention this, I'm doing a course with SANS. I'm going to do my SE 5-day course out in Vegas in September with SANS. So we have a ton of training coming up, just really a lot happening for us. I'm really excited about that. And, that's about it I want to announce right now. We'll get more going with the DEF CON stuff next month at the podcast. We'll talk about more of those things. So if you want to follow us, we are Human Hacker on Twitter, or our corporate is SOC Engineer Inc. on Twitter for our corporate feed. You can follow us also on a website, social-engineer.org and social-engineer.com. If you're on IRC, you can follow us on the irc.freenode.net network on channel social-engineer. And that's about it, guys. So we'll see you next month.
All right.
See you.
Cause I'm
Thank you.
confident. Like I'm in a hurry. Like I've got work to do. Like I'm going places. Welcome one and all to this fun competition. Except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms. Everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm no signal, my battery is finished. Hey, could I go and use your phone for a minute? Thanks, yo, I had to make a call to play it down while my rootkit exfilled your data to the cloud. Plan to stall, stand appalled, gotta take my time scanning all your systems, the ones you didn't wipe. Scamming y'all, I got terabytes of drives. Cannonball in the dumpster when I dive. Black and white, all the info with the details. And what type of person really prints out emails? Still intact, all the sentences and questions. I mean, paper shredders really aren't that expensive. Yep, we want it all, the kit and caboodle. It's not that impressive, I just know how to Google. Found the CEO with the social network name, sir. Nope, it's dual core, we're just leveraging the framework. Welcome one and all to this fun competition. Except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms. Everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Welcome one and all to this fun competition. Except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms. Everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. If you know what I'm saying. Welcome one and all to this fun competition. Except nobody knows if there's any opposition. Face so friendly, smile disarms. Everything's good, no cause for alarm. Cause I'm like you, and likewise the same. But for you this is work, and for me it's a game. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying. Next round starting, believe that I'm playing. Know what I'm saying. Know what I'm saying. Give a thumbs up if you know what I'm saying.